I'm being joined today by a former England captain who scored 100 here at Lord's. I'd like to have seen it. I suspect some might have come off the middle of the bat. He'll tell me all about it in a minute. He's a World Cup semi-finalist, a record-breaking scorer for his country. Since retirement, well, he's probably the most familiar sports presenter on our televisions, but actually it's not cricket we're talking about. We're talking about Gary Lineker, of course. It's been a long time since I've seen you.
It is, I guess. Too long.
It has.
Too long.
I think the last time I saw you actually was a Sydney Test match over New Year.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And we had dinner. And I think you very kindly bought it.
Oh, did I?
So probably, well, I got done last night by Alistair Cook, so I didn't do it with that. But anyway, I think that's the last time. Long time ago.
Yeah, it is a long time ago. That was, I remember that because I once played in a testimonial cricket match in Yorkshire. And I was opening the batting for like a celebrity team against Yorkshire.
Right.
And I got a few runs, and then this young fast bowler was trying to knock my head off, and he was being told off by all his teammates, saying, "Hang on, slow down. He's got a game of football next week. Just go easy on him. Go easy on him." And I eventually got 50 odd, 60 or something. And then years and years later, at that Sydney Test, right. My seats, Gower got me tickets because David was obviously a big friend. So I was right next to the changing rooms. And this lad came out and he goes, "Oi!" And it was Goffey.
Oh, was it?
And he says, "The last time I saw you, I tried to knock your head off." I had no idea it was Darren Gough. No, at that time.
I wouldn't have liked the thought of that very much. Because Goffey, those days, was quick.
He was quick. He was the quickest thing I'd ever faced at that point.
Yeah. How did you get on?
No helmets either in those days, of course. You know, brave as a lion.
I know you were.
I was all right. Knocked him around a little bit.
Get out of it. But you see, we do actually go back a long way.
Yeah,
don't we? Back to those Leicester days.
Yeah.
And I mean, you were a decent cricketer. You used to turn up in the nets and so on, and benefit games and so on. I mean, you'd regularly turn up.
I love cricket. I loved batting, and I kept wicket as well because I used to get bored fielding. But I loved playing. I played Leicestershire schools all through, captained them for quite a few years. And,
yes.
It was funny because I always thought as a kid that I had a better chance at cricket than I had at football.
Did you?
And then the opportunity of football came along at 16. I took it, and then cricket took a back seat.
Yeah, but you still played it, didn't you? I mean, you still played in your time off.
I played all the way through, and occasionally in trouble. In fact, I used to play here on the nursery ground right next door quite regularly for a team called Cross Arrows that play in September. They played pretty much every day in September in midweek. So it suited me when I was playing for Tottenham because I lived just off Abbey Road when I played for Spurs. Right. And I used to come down and play, 4, 5, 6 games in September. And there was one game where we'd played, and the game was running out to a draw, and we were fielding. And they said, "Go on, Gary, have a bowl." I went, "I don't bowl. I don't want to bowl." This was on a Thursday. We were playing Aston Villa on the Saturday. I said, "I don't bowl," and I wasn't keeping that day because of football. So they went, "Oh, come on, have a bowl." I went, "All right." So third ball, I lifted like twanged my side, bustle completely went off.
That's not good.
So I had to go in the next day. So I go to Terry Venables in the morning because I'm struggling. I think, "Oh God, do I tell him? Do I make up an excuse? I tell him?" I thought, no, you got to tell him because otherwise he might find out the wrong way. So I said, "Terry, I've done my side." And he said, "Well, how'd you do it?" I said, "I was playing cricket." And I said, "I came in he went, "You were playing cricket?" He said, "That's it, no more cricket." I said, "Terry, let's make a deal. No more bowling."
Well,
and he agreed with that, so he was okay.
So, but it's actually interesting that you could combine the two a bit, though. I mean, because you were a precious item, weren't you? You know, to go and break a finger or
I don't think you'd probably get away with it now.
I don't think you would you?
No, probably not. They're all worth too much money, aren't they?
Yeah, and we've met some. Joe Hart, the Neville boys, obviously.
Yeah.
They share.
Well, Philip Neville's supposed to have been really exceptional talent.
Yes, yeah, exactly. What got you going in? And do you ever? I mean, sitting over there as you are, do you look down and ever actually put yourself into a cricketing situation? Then, given that you do love the game so much,
as a batsman, always, yeah, I'd love a go. Not now, I can't see. but back in the day, I always used to think, because obviously I didn't ever get the chance because, it's funny, I played in one the best sporting day of my life and had a few decent ones. And I've told this story to people over the years. It was the last week before the start of the season. It was a Monday night. We had a game, Tottenham against West Ham, last pre-season friendly, 5 days before the start of the season, and. Dave English runs the Bunburys and stuff, and he always helped.
Somewhat eccentric.
Very eccentric, but great. Raised loads of money and stuff over the years. So And he was doing one of the guys' benefit games. I think it might have been Mike Gatting. I'm not sure, but it was a game, and he had a game at Finsbury or somewhere like that. I can't remember exactly where. Finchley, I think it might have been.
Right.
And he called me on that Sunday night. He said, "Gary," said, "I've had a couple of pull-outs. I'm a bit short. I need a face." I went, "I can't play tomorrow, Dave. I've got a match tomorrow night." I said, "I cannot play." He went, "Oh, God." He said, "I'm really struggling. Dude." I said, "I can't." He said, "What about if you turn up, you open the batting, bat first, open the batting, when you're out, you can go." I went, ooh.
That's a tempter.
So
you can't get out of that.
I couldn't resist, could I? So I said, "Oh, go on then." So I get in, right, and Courtney Walsh is bowling the first over.
Sure
Courtney Walsh, right? But it's a decent track. So and Courtney, and he goes a long run up and does a deliberate silly bouncer that goes about 10 feet over my head for a bit of fun. And then he walked back 3 paces, and I went, "Courtney, will you give me a proper over?" Right. So, because I just thought,
are you serious?
I'm
You're
serious.
Mad.
Yeah, completely mad. But anyway, so the first ball, it was like, whoo, hit the keeper's hands before it. The second ball wasn't too dissimilar, and then the third one actually, he was bowling sensibly. He was just kind of on the decent length round off stump.
Yeah.
So he wasn't trying to kill me.
No.
So then boom, and I got hold, and I thought, last ball of the over, I thought, right, I know where he's bowling these. I'll take a bit of chance. I put my foot down and went boom, and it went straight through the covers for 4.
See, you shouldn't do that.
I ended up 112 not out at lunch. Right? So, it was, and I'm sweating in buckets. And I said, "Dave, I got to go." And he went, "Mate, you've done me proud. You've done me proud." So I went to Tottenham and scored a hat-trick.
What?
Best day of my sporting life.
That's a ridiculous day.
It was the best day ever, honestly.
I'd like to have seen Courtney's face when he slid in through the covers for 4, though.
Well, thankfully that was the last ball. I wasn't that daft. And then I think he didn't really want to bowl another over at full pelt.
No.
So.
And cricketing wise, then, I mean, forget the hat trick, obviously, but cricket wise, was that the moment? Is that the greatest moment of your cricket career to slip Courtney Walsh a 4 through the covers because he was trying?
I think I probably was. Yeah. I've made a few hundreds and stuff, but that was against obviously one of the great bowlers.
So Leicester lad. Same age as me, more or less, I suspect. Who was your cricketing heroes then? As a kid?
As a kid, but Ray Illingworth.
Right, of course.
Was captain of Leicestershire at that point. He was, grumpy old Yorkshireman. But
the England captain that we'd probably grown up with.
Brian Davison.
Oh yeah.
What a beautiful batsman.
Saw him recently.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah, in Australia. He's in Hobart. He's very, very well. Oh. Yeah, he's quite a character.
Fantastic. Again. And then latterly, which really pleases me, because I always tell him whenever I see him that he's my schoolboy hero, is David Gower. Even though he's only about 2 years older than me. But if you remember, he broke into Leicestershire's team when he was 16 or 17.
Yeah,
and I was about 14, 15.
Yeah.
So I used to go to the games, get everyone's autograph and stuff, and he was kind of my hero. And then obviously we worked together for years, and they think it's all over and things like that. But Gower's always been a close friend. And
he was special.
He's just effortless, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, almost too effortless on occasions.
Yeah.
But he was, I really cared when he was batting. When you've got a mate that's out there and it's going well and you want him.
Yes.
And we had the same agent forever as well.
You did, in fact.
And still have.
Yeah, it's like the first. Well, I remember you coming, or at least I'm pretty sure I remember you coming to do View from the Boundary from the other end of the ground with Brian Johnston, didn't you?
Well, there's something in my head says I've done it here, and also maybe at Headingley, or maybe it was just Headingley. Oh, I don't know.
I thought it was.
It might be. It might be.
How did you find the Johners interview? Because people just queued up to do that.
Yeah, he was a legendary broadcaster, wasn't he?
Yes.
I mean, he was just the words and the description of everything. I just thought he was, and such a great sense of humour as well.
Yes,
he's one of the masters.
Do you look at other broadcasters and doing what you're doing now, and someone like him or others? I mean, just changing away from cricket a second. I mean, are the broadcasters that you? I don't know, learnt from, tried to emulate?
I mean, for me, Des Lynam, and I was lucky to be alongside him when I did a bit of punditry in my early days before I broke into actually presenting, but he was the master, the doyen for me, because, I mean, it's just his manner, how he was relaxed he was, that he would, and I do so many things, or try to do so many things that he did, just little things like, for example, when he introduced the guests, he would never say joining me. He would always say joining us. It'd include the audience at home. Because I spotted it one day, because he shifted it on the autocue because someone had put joining me, and he went, no, joining us. And I went, I've noticed you do the why? And he said, because it's not us. It's not just me and him. It's we're talking to everybody, and we're in their home. And so I took that on board, and I've always used that. Then trying to be humorous, he said, with your closing lines or your opening lines. He said, sometimes they work, sometimes they won't. He said, have a bit of fun with it. He said, it differentiates you from the rest, because a lot of them are not brave enough to do that. So lots of things. He was,
but experience like that is invaluable, isn't it? I mean, I was lucky to have Brian as a sort of a mentor. There's always sort of one.
I think they should. I think that probably applies to most people. That someone you look up to, someone you think does the job so well, and you try and live up. You can't, but you try your best to get as close to them as you can.
And are you kind of working yourself all the time? Are you still? Do you watch footage of all?
I watch football all the time. I'm still going, still doing match of the day, and I've cut down a little bit. I'd stopped doing the Champions League. It was getting to the point where in life in my 60s, where I try and perhaps enjoy it a little bit, travel a little bit more, spend a bit more time. My son's come to cricket matches as well. So I cut down that a little bit, which has been great. I still watch it all, but I watch it from home with a glass of wine, which is quite enjoyable.
I'm talking to Gary Lineker. It's lunchtime here at Lord's. The sun is shining. It's been an interesting morning. I'll get Gary's thoughts on that in a second. But England bundled out 165. They lost their 4 wickets for 49 this morning, with Pope making 72, but they didn't get a wicket from South Africa in those overs that they bowled so far. And they bowled 12 of them, 27 for no wicket. So a lot for England to do this afternoon. I think they were disappointed, weren't they, with what happened?
Did you notice as well that soon as they went out to bat, that the clouds just went away, and suddenly the skies were blue, and the ball wasn't moving around?
Do that, which is infuriating.
It was a big toss to lose, wasn't it?
Yeah. What do you think of? Do you think cricket's at a bit of a crossroads at the moment? I mean, given that you do follow it closely, it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on that, on where the game's going and what the future holds for it. And so on.
I worry a little bit about Test cricket. I'm not sure how many countries are that enamoured with playing it all the time, but I think the actual game of cricket in general is probably as strong as it's been forever. I think there's more kids getting involved in the game, because I think 2020, 100, all those kind of those things are really appealing.
Yes.
And cricket works like that. But I love Test cricket, so that's why I fear for it. I love the whole thing, the twists and turns that could go over 5 days of. And some of the Test cricket we've seen this summer has been spectacular, hasn't it? I mean, those last innings efforts from England against India were just superb to watch.
For me, it would be a tragedy if you'd lost international cricket, because that seems to be the attack, and there's a lot of franchises and city-based and so on coming. And yet that sort of work. I know international football is obviously special, the World Cups and Euros and that sort of thing, but it's okay with football, isn't it, to have city-based teams? I don't know whether I'm being a bit over anxious with cricket.
Well, I think cricket's we've always seen it, really, haven't we, as an international game until that, and that's the shift, because county cricket, I mean, not many people, I remember the old Sunday League where you get decent crowds and stuff, but county cricket itself has always been pretty sparse around the terraces. So I suppose it financially it's needed that injection in terms of the short game cricket and 2020s and one-day stuff. So you can see why that's perhaps more appealing, perhaps to youngsters and stuff whose attention span perhaps won't last over 5 days. But I mean, I've got 4 sons, 3 of them particularly are real big cricket fans.
Right.
They all
play.
Yeah, they play in that Last Man Standing. Have you heard of that? It's quite really popular. They have a lot of fun with that.
Yes.
In fact, I think they won their district last year, and they're in the final next week. So it's they all play and they're interested, but they love Test cricket as well. So I think there's. I still think
they watch. How old are they?
They're all 30. Well, George is 30. He's not that interested in cricket. The others are, though. Harry's 29, Tobias 26, and Angs, who's with me at the back here, he's 25, and they're keen. They're keen. They're supposed to have the semi-final last night, but because of the rain, they couldn't play. But because they'd been top of the league already, they went straight through to the final without even having to play.
Well, that's the way.
Had a result.
That's definitely the way to do it. But I do worry about the effort that appears that administrators need to think they have to make in order to make cricket attractive, which for lovers of Test cricket,
I know. I'm a purist. I'm a purist like you. I mean, I've sat down and watched Test cricket forever, and I love it. But hopefully it will carry on. Hopefully, but I share your kind of fears.
Yeah. What about the women's game? Because, crikey, look at football. I mean, that was... I mean, I'll be honest, I don't watch a lot of football. I never played it at school, which is a shame, I think, because I feel I've missed something out there. But I don't really watch... But I did watch them.
I don't know, I've seen you move, because I'm not sure.
No, it's terrible. No, maybe that was the problem. But... the Lionesses, I mean, that was...
No, it's brilliant.
For people like me who aren't aficionados at all, that was such a draw.
It's brilliant, and people sometimes say, oh yeah, what about the women's game against the men's game? No, it's football. They're playing football, and I think it's the same with the cricket. And the standards improve so quickly in all women's sport in terms of cricket and football, and it's a great thing, because if you're involved in a sport, like I've been involved in football all my life, the one ever present. The popularity of the game, and it will be the same with, because of the 100 and the women's cricket being played along the side, which is a really good thing. It increases the amount of people that are keen on your sport, and if you're involved in it, that's a good thing, because it becomes more popular, it becomes more global, and it's great. And the standards improving now really, really quickly, I think, in women's sport, as we saw in the Euros, and they were, it was just a superb triumph.
And how does it kick on from there? I mean, given that they had half the nation watching, I mean, as far as the structure about the Premiership clubs are concerned,
it'll have its issues in terms of it needs to probably generate more support, and hopefully the knock-on effect of the success will mean more people will go and watch women's football at club level.
Yes.
Which is obviously the next step. International level now, I think we're pretty assured of getting a following, because they've done so brilliantly, and they'll also, I think, the interest in young girls that will want to play it now and go and want to watch it. So hopefully the stadiums will be a lot fuller for women's football this season, for whether it's Manchester City or United or Liverpool or Arsenal, whichever side it is.
Yes. So what I loved the fact that the game was actually quite clean. I mean, it was that final was hard. I mean,
you say clean. They were putting some tackles in that final.
Yeah, but no diving,
fiery,
no histrionics.
No,
it was. I mean, clean from that perspective. It was a fiery game, but it showed that you can play a fiery game without trying to get someone sent off.
I agree. I hate that aspect of the men's game at present. I just don't get it, especially now when you've got things like VAR that can pick up all these things anyway. But diving around and pretending... I mean, we saw it, didn't we, in the pandemic, particularly when there were no crowds, so you could hear every movement, players getting a little nudge, screaming, all this nonsense. And I must admit, it's something I think that the game has got to try and address.
Well, what can they do?
Yellow cards, I guess. But, I mean, how do you know when someone's feigning injury? That's the only problem. You can't be 100% sure, but we know it goes on a lot, and it's embarrassing.
Was it like that when you played, or is it something that's really changed?
It's got a lot worse. I think it's got a lot worse because you can, which is funny, because it's actually a really, really good law change that they made in terms of giving people yellow cards for serious foul play. Well, not even serious foul play, but just for fouls, really. And that's encouraged the better players to be able to get more of the ball. When, like Maradona, for example, when he played, he'd be kicked, and you needed to commit grievous bodily harm to get a yellow card, whereas nowadays you just nudge someone and you can get a yellow card. And in a sense that's good, because it encourages the more skillful players, but it also encourages people to play acts and try and get people booked, because they might get them sent off later. So it's trying to find that balance, really. It's a difficult problem to solve.
Yeah. Did you sit there and watch that women's final and think, I wish that the men's game was played like this?
I didn't really think that way. I wish the men's our England men's team could win something like that. That's what I was thinking at the end. But I think we're close. I think we're going to be competitive for the next 10, 15 years with the players that we've got. We went to the semi-finals in the last World Cup. We went to the finals in the Euros. Lost on. You can't be much closer than losing on. By penalties, so we're close, and we're going to be. It's knockout competitions. We've got a World Cup coming up, obviously, in the winter.
Yes.
And we'll be competitive. It's a knockout, and there's lots of great teams, so it's going to be difficult. But I honestly think in the next 10, 12 years we'll win a major tournament.
Okay.
The men as well as the women.
And this winter, I mean, it's Qatar, isn't it? There's been a lot of controversy about that.
Well, quite rightly so. It was obviously it's been proven to be in a corrupt bid. I was there when it happened. But we kind of stuck with it. where it is. It was supposed to be in the summer, which was ridiculous, and then it's obviously been moved, so that's going to mess people up a little bit. But we know once it starts, it will attract massive attention, and I'm sure it'll be a great watch, because all that matters once it gets going is the football. We'll have the customary build-up we do before every World Cup about what's wrong with it, why is there no legacy, and all these kind of things, and then the football starts, it takes over.
Yeah. And how did you find it stepping when you finished playing? How did you find that transition to broadcasting?
Can you remember?
Well, actually, I can remember.
Can you?
I think we were both quite wooden.
No, I can remember as well. It's difficult. I mean, you're just going from playing, and then I did a couple of years punditry, but it's a totally different thing presenting.
Yes.
And I remember I started with Football Focus, and so many times I remember driving home at lunchtime thinking, I'm never going to be able to do this. Never. But then
why?
It just seemed too difficult, and trying to do links to camera and then go to a chat and then try and listen to things in your ear and the count and all that sort of stuff. And I was doing a bit of radio, which helped, but there were many weeks where it was never quite as bad as I felt it was, but I always used to watch them back with people back then and got a lot of help. And then I wasn't quite bad enough for them to get rid of me, and I hung on in there, and then I kind of became comfortable with it and knew how it worked, and then you become yourself and you become relaxed, and then people decide whether they like you or not.
Yeah, and you're part of a team, actually, aren't you? Television's a huge team.
Oh, it's way bigger than people can possibly imagine.
Yes.
We just sit there. And that's nice, because that's that one thing when you play in sport and it's difficult, that camaraderie, that fun in the dressing room, banter as they now call it. We still have that. It's on a kind of slightly smaller scale, but that's a nice thing. I think the only thing you can't replace is that unbelievable moment of scoring an important goal, or for you taking a big wicket, or winning a big match, and that togetherness that you get. That's irreplaceable.
It is. You still get the hairs on the back of the neck, can't you, when you're at an event? I mean, here for the World Cup final, for instance, was
those things. I mean, I still they replay it so often that I watch it every time. Yeah. And it still makes me feel that way. And I get emotional. It's like when Leicester won the league, for example. Yes. I mean, it was just
how did that happen? I mean,
it was a miracle. It couldn't happen. It was impossible. It was impossible. Well, it really was, and it did happen. Yeah. I mean, the other big clubs were all in a little bit of transition, and then we no injuries, and we managed to find Kante, and we had Mahrez, and we had Vardy, and we had Schmeichel, and it kept going. And I did that ridiculous thing where I said I'd do the first match of the day in my pants if they won it, because I knew there was categorically no chance whatsoever of Leicester winning the league. It just couldn't happen. And then it got closer and closer, and all the games were shifted on to a Sunday, which was great, because I could do match of the day, get home, watch the games with my boys, 3 of which are Leicester fans. Yeah. The same ones that are the cricketers, funnily enough. George is Manchester United, but we'll go.
What happened there?
It's payback time. So we had, and we sat there, and it was so they kept winning. It was like winning 1-0. They won 1-0. Then there was a 2-0. Then it was and the closer it got, the more tense it got. And then you start, the last couple of weeks, you started to think, if it doesn't happen now, it'll destroy me. I don't know how I'll cope with it, because it was so joyous. And then obviously they won it when they weren't playing, because Tottenham had to win at Chelsea to keep them in it, and they were 2-0 up, and then they got one back, Chelsea. And then Hazard bent that one in the top corner. And that was, I think, the most joyous moment that I've ever watched for any kind of sport, any time. And we were all huddled, and I was crying, and it was just gorgeous.
And there are incredible scenes in the city as well afterwards. I mean, it was extraordinary.
I honestly think it's the biggest team sporting miracle of any sport at any time.
I think it's true.
Yeah, because it couldn't happen. It's like a team that. I think they won 7 of the last 9 games of the season to stay up the season before. It's absurd, really. But what they did, but it was magical.
How did you cope with? You talked about the count again. We who do this know that dreaded count in your ear, which I was terrible at when I did television. I couldn't. I mean, radio, you've got a clock. It's nice and easy. You can watch the hand going around. Can't you? You've got to talk for 10 seconds, 15 seconds, whatever it may be. that awful metronomic voice in your ear that
20 seconds to stop talking.
And
15 seconds to stop.
I mean, I can still feel that. I can still feel the bead of sweat down the back. But
do you know what? Do you know what the secret is?
Well, go on.
Don't worry about it too much. If you hit it too early, they'll cope. They'll run the tiles.
Leave it to someone else.
Yeah, never always leave it to someone else. That I've learnt many things over the years.
That's a great piece of advice.
And you know what? If you can suddenly, we finish match of the day with the table copy normally, and then we go into what the papers have got to say, just to prove that we are actually always live.
Yes.
And then I have a closing line. So. And I do a readout and I time it before, so I roughly know.
Okay.
On this particular, it's different with live matches because you just have to say, "Shut up, we're off," but for that we generally do it that way. So then, if I hit it, if I've got 55 seconds, I'll start reading. Sometimes they'll stop talking and I'll try and fill for a bit, and then so I've got 60 seconds. Then I read it
quite a long time,
and then you start to get to my closing line. I think I'm there a bit early.
Yeah.
Then I won't worry about it. I'll let them work it out.
No, we just do it anyway.
And then if I'm a bit slow, or the guys go on too much and I hit it too late, then I'll just do 5 seconds over. It's as easy as that. But it took me a long time to work that out. See, give the problem to someone else.
But I couldn't. I cheated because I knew I couldn't do it. And we had the World Cup here in '99, and the BBC had lost the TV rights, and everyone jumped off and went to Sky or Channel 4, and I was left. And Richie Benaud.
The great Richie Benaud. He was another master.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And so my boss phoned me up with about a week to go and said, "I've got great news for you, Jonathan. You're going to be the face of BBC TV World Cup coverage." And I said, "I'm not. I can't do that." He said, "Don't worry, we'll send you for training." So I knew I had this thing about the voice.
What, they're going to train the look of your face?
Thank you, Gary. A bit beyond that. But they did. They sent me for training. I had a day with Peter Purves down at Elstree Studios. It was brilliant at Blue Peter.
Blue Peter, yeah.
Not sure about his cricket credentials, but anyway, the problem was this. I knew I couldn't do the clock at the end.
Why couldn't you do it?
I just had it. I don't know.
Panicky thing.
Panic. I had it in my mind. First match, it was at Cardiff, Australia, New Zealand. I think New Zealand won actually. And I'm waiting, like you do, aren't you? 59, 58. Oh, God, here we go. So I went for it. I've got Richie in the studio with me. I went for it, and I missed it by about a second.
Yeah, that's all right.
No, it didn't. It looked horrible. I think technology must have improved. Or they were trying... I don't know. Anyway, off it went. It looked horrible. But only by about a second. And Richie sat there, and he said... that didn't go very well, Jonathan, did it? I said, no. I said, no, Richie, it didn't. I said, I'm worried about this because, we got 6 weeks of this. Yeah. He said, well, relax. He said, how long do you think you need to say goodbye? So I thought, 1, 2, 3, 4, about 7 seconds.
That's about right.
Yeah. He said, fine. He said, well, tomorrow, when you hear the count, ask me a question and I'll stop at 8. I said, you're kidding.
No, that's what you do. You tell the guys, I've got 10 seconds on my closing. If you could just shut up when about 15, that'd be great.
But he stopped at 8. He stopped at 8 seconds.
Yeah.
And I'd look at him and say, thank you, Richie. That's great. Look at the camera. Yeah. There we go. Great win today for Pakistan or whatever.
It's easy. It's a lot easier than you think.
But he did it for me.
Yeah.
It's that he was just
he told you how to do it. That's all. He's got that advice, and I worked that out because I did 2 years punditry alongside Des Lynam. So.
Right.
And he'll just have one pithy little a funny closing line or something serious sometimes or whatever it is. But
that's okay.
And the other thing, you just
I'll be watching
and
when
they're talking, you just give them the nod of the head. So that basically means shut up.
I'm going to watch next time. Next time we're on. Almost done here. What do you make of Bazball? Do you like Bazball? The way that England are playing, this whole new attacking...
Absolutely. It's fabulous, wasn't it? I mean, it might not always pay off. I'm sure it won't.
No.
But it was just so exciting, wasn't it? I mean, because it's worked, obviously, but it's great because... But all sport it's entertainment, isn't it? That's what you want, and it's really, really entertaining rather than watching, mucking around all day. Now, if everyone's out giving the wicket away really quick, we'll probably quickly turn and say, "Well, you've got to be a little bit more pragmatic."
I mean, you, the pundit, and the cricketer, what are you going to be saying if they do play like that and they lose? And Ben Stokes told me the other day they could easily have lost all those 4 games, and they could actually.
Of course, they could. If Johnny Bairstow hadn't been in the form of his life, then they could have lost them all. But
what do we do as pundits then? What do we say if they go out there in this game and they thrash around?
That's the life as a pundit. You're allowed to just twist and turn and say what you want at the moment, aren't you? And that's the kind of journalism, isn't it? You get the newspaper writers, 1 minute they're telling you how great you are, the next they want to kick you out.
Yes.
But that's part of being a pundit, isn't it? You've got to try and find a balance, but you've also, I think, got to remember that, Christ, it's really entertaining. The crowd loved it, didn't it? So it's worth taking that chance rather than, you're much better off going out with a bang, aren't you, and having a real go than you are and losing the other way. I don't know.
What would you think if they watching? If I mean, it hasn't happened here. To be fair, they were got
we're not
out.
We're not going to bat last either, are we?
No, but England were got out yesterday. They some really decent bowling.
Yeah, and the conditions were really favourable.
But you would rather see a swishing a.
Gow was my first really cricketing batting hero, him and Brian Davison, and they gave it a swish. So why not?
I've got an email here. What do you make of the big characters in cricket, like Ben Stokes or late Shane Warne? And of course, he mentions Gazza here.
Yeah, well, it's the same topic in a way, isn't it? It's the entertainers, and you need a mix. You need kind of your steady eddies, but you also need a bit of charisma, a bit of finesse and a bit of fun. I mean, obviously sad Shane Warne, terribly sad what happened to him, but what
did you come across him at all? Did you?
I actually faced him in the nets once.
Oh, get out of it.
I did. I did. It was an auction item.
And you hit him for 6.
No, I didn't. I didn't know what day it was, and the ball was turning square anyway. And it was an auction item. It was and he was at the event, and it was a cricket. I can't remember. It was a cricket charity day. And I bid to buy the auction item because I thought, Christ, I'll get an over from Shane Warne.
Yes.
It wasn't as successful as previous.
What did he bowl you?
He bowled all sorts. What's really surprised me though was the noise in the air.
Right.
You could hear it. It's like spinning boat. And
so he was trying.
I couldn't read it. And I was embarrassing.
Did he get you out?
Yeah. Of course.
How many times?
But what a lovely guy he was as well. But you need characters. Every sport.
And do you give them their head? I mean, in a dressing room situation, I mean, how equally do you treat everybody? If you've got this immense character who is not like the rest of us.
Well, that's management. That's management. Good management, isn't it? Which I don't think I would have ever been.
You wouldn't have been.
No, I don't think so. It never appealed to me anyway, and I don't think I'm that kind of personality to have, But I think the clever managers, they do deal with people differently. I mean, you talked to Manchester United players about Sir Alex Ferguson with Eric Cantona, for example. He could do pretty much what he wanted because he was of that much value, and I think sometimes the other players were a little bit miffed by it, but they put up with it because they knew that he would bring them success. And I think the great managers adapt to different personalities. Bobby Robson with Gazza was fantastic, as was Terry Venables. They kind of try and guide him in the right direction, with no success whatsoever.
Ferguson's the one interview that I want.
Yeah,
he loves cricket too. Have you ever had the hairdryer from him? That's what slightly concerns me.
Well, we've fallen out a couple of times because he was a bit anti-BBC for a long time. But water under the bridge.
Oh. One day it'll happen.
But
now look what I've saved till last.
I don't know.
I've given you the opportunity.
What, to play now?
No, not now. But the build-up was your century here at Lord's.
Well, it wasn't on here. It was on the nursery ground.
On the back.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I did play. I've only ever played here once, and I played it. It was MCC versus Germany. Would you believe? Yeah,
really?
Versus Germany. So they put me in at 5, which had really annoyed me because I'm an opener. Really, I'm a bit like Alistair Cook.
Really. Blocker.
He was here earlier on. Like Geoffrey Boycott. So the two guys, I went in at 5, and then we were something like 250 for 3 when I went in with 1 over left.
That's not good.
So I got 1. I got off the mark. And then the other fellow went in, and then last ball of the innings I got caught on the boundary.
Well, playing for the team.
But I always got 1 against the Germans.
What about that? I've given you your line.
Well, there you go. You
I
said
suspect you
we
might have used that
started
one
and we
before.
finished at Lords.
I know. Gary, it's great to catch up with you again.
Likewise.
It really is. It's been a long time.
Too long.
And really nice. Well done. Keep going. Keep
try.
going and keep enjoying the cricket.
That's for sure.
Yeah, okay. Gary Lineker, passing by, and it's lovely to catch up with an old Leicester friend from, well, yeah, many years ago.